Election Commission to order. Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Whitman?
Here.
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 Germaine?
Here.
Lamore?
Present.
Felder? Mayor Clark?
Present. So I'm looking for my, I just had it here a second ago. There it is. Thank you. My agenda.
All right.
So the roll call, the next clerk is the,
So I think all of you, Councilperson Stilgrave, have you done one of these meetings before? No. Okay. So just a quick recap, the Election Commission meeting is something that's mandated by law. It happens in every township and city across the state. And in the city of Monroe, charter dictates that council is the Election Commission. So prior to every election, we need to conduct this meeting, and there's some points of business that we have to conduct at every meeting. So it's pretty much the same agenda each time. So our first item would be, I need a motion to approve the minutes from the October 4th, 2021 meeting and the October 26th, 2021 meeting.
Motion to approve the minutes from October 4th, 2021 and October 26th, 2021.
I'll second.
so motion by Commissioner Lamore, supported by Commissioner Woman Germaine on the minutes. Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Whitman?
Yes.
Stilgrave?
Yes.
Vining?
Yes.
Germaine?
Yes.
Lamore?
Yes.
Felder?
Yes.
Mayor Clark?
Yes.
All right, and then the majority of our business is under commission action. The first item, which is the first resolution in your packet, is a resolution delegating duties to the clerk treasurer. And again, the duties in the resolution are the same as they've been previously. Basically, it allows me as the clerk to carry out the items necessary to conduct the elections. So I'll need a motion in a second.
Councilman Vine.
I make a motion to approve the resolution delegating the election duties to the clerk treasurer.
Sec.
A motion by Commissioner Vine, supported by Commissioner Felder on the resolution. Any questions or comments from Commission? Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Whitman? Stilgrave? Vining?
Yes.
Germaine?
Yes.
Lamore?
Yes.
Felder?
Yes.
Mayor Clark?
Yes.
The next item is the establishment of the absentee voter counting board. And for this particular election, we have, I think we have 600 or 700 at this point, more absentee ballots or requests for ballots than we did in 2018, which is the comparable election. So therefore, I'm just asking you in this motion to allow me to determine the exact time that they will be coming to start the AV counting board that day. We may need more time, we may not need as much time, so I'll play that by ear and just establish it closer to the date. That's the only difference with this. But you will be establishing that there will be 2 AV counting boards and that they will be held on August 2nd, which is Election Day. So I need a motion and a second.
So just to follow up, so obviously the date is there in which it'll be scheduled. And as you get close, is it something that like the next meeting or that you might, or you can communicate with council what that?
Sure.
Okay, what
Yeah.
the date times?
Yeah, I mean,
Or
it'll
post
be,
it or whatever, however
well,
you
it'll
wanna
be
do it.
August 2nd, and then they'll be coming in at some point during the day. But yeah, I can update.
Because you have to post it anyways, correct? Or
Not the
no?
AV counting board,
Okay.
but I'll update everybody.
That'd be great. So looking for a motion?
Your Honor, I make a motion to approve 2 absentee voter counting boards for the August 2022 primary with report time to council chambers at City Hall on August 2nd, 2022 to be determined by Clerk Treasurer Michelle Lavoie.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Lamore, supported by Commissionerwoman Stilgrave. Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Whitman,
Yes.
Stilgrave,
Yes.
Vining,
Yes.
Germaine,
Yes.
Lamore,
Yes.
Felder,
Yes.
Mayor Clark.
Yes.
The next list in your packet was the list of election inspectors. You need this list to go ahead and approve the appointments. As we have, as happened in the last couple of years with COVID, we too are having hiring issues for just like everybody else is. And so I'm also asking, later on, I'll be asking you to approve a resolution, as we've done in the past, to allow me to appoint some additional election inspectors if needed. But for right now, this is our set election inspector list, and they are assigned to precincts. And as you can see, there's a good balance of Rs and Ds. No precinct is all Rs or all Ds. So we need a motion and a support.
Motion on the,
Yeah, I have
yes,
one.
yes, Councilwoman?
Clerk Treasurer, I was just looking at 3 South. You think you'll be adding inspectors in the future to 3 South?
We probably will, although that's 3 North and 3 South are two of our slower precincts, and there's been there's not been a lot to do in some cases for the inspectors, but I don't like to have only 3 at each precinct. I like to have at least 4. So yes, to answer your question, yes, we will. It won't be as big as 5 or 6, but we would definitely have more people.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions? If not, a motion?
Your Honor, I make a motion to approve the election inspector assignment list as provided by Clerk Treasurer Lavoy.
Okay.
By Commissioner Lamore, supported by Commissionerwoman Steelgrave. Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Whitman? Steelgrave?
Yes.
Vining?
Yes.
Jermaine?
Yes.
Lamore?
Yes.
Felder? Mayor Clark?
Yes.
The next item is the public accuracy test. That is an open meeting conducted by the Election Commission to test the election equipment just prior to the election. We will be running the pre-accuracy test through my office, and then we do the public accuracy test the week before the election. So this election, I'm asking that we set it for Tuesday, July 26th, 2022. I ask that you establish the time, and we will need election commissioners to volunteer. And remember, we do need a quorum because it is an official meeting.
Thank you. Drop my pen, sorry. I'm available if that's on that date, open throughout the day.
And we usually do it in the morning.
Morning's
And that's
usually-
perfectly fine for our office. I just leave that up to you. 8? Okay. 8 o'clock is fine. So we'll say 8 o'clock. And I have Mayor Clark. Who else would like to attend? Commissioner Germaini, Commissioner Lamore,
Thank you.
Mr. Steelgrave?
Commissioner Steelgrave. Okay.
I can come.
Okay, wonderful. Good. All right, then I think we're all set.
Your Honor, I'll make a motion to hold the public accuracy test for the August 2nd, 2022 primary on Tuesday, July 26th, 2022 at 8 a.m. at Monroe City Hall. Test to be conducted by the following election commissioners: Commissioner Whitman, Commissioner Steelgrave, Commissioner
Germaini.
Germaini, Commissioner Lamore, and the Honorable Mayor Clark.
Just need a second.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Whitman,
Yes.
Steelgrave,
Yes.
Vining,
Yes.
Germaini,
Yes.
Lamore,
Yes.
Felder,
Yes.
Mayor Clark.
Yes. So, clerk on that one, so it requires a quorum. Is it at 4 or 5, or does it require 5?
4 will do.
So we have an additional, if something comes up, we are, oh, okay, sounds good.
The last item under commission action is the delegation of authority to the clerk to appoint additional election inspectors for in-person precincts, AV Counting Board, and the Receiving Board. Again, that's just, we have a few holes to fill. We also do have, on occasion, especially with the summer, people, a vacation comes up or something like that. So I just need to be able to fill the hole without, if it happens 2 days before the election, we can't call an election commission meeting. So I'm asking you to delegate that authority. There is precedence for this. We did this previously.
Any questions on this request for the delegation authority? And motion, please.
Your Honor, I'll make a motion to approve a resolution delegating authority to Clerk Treasurer Michelle Lavoy to make additional appointments of election inspectors for the August primary 2022 as necessary.
Second.
Commissioner Lamore, supported by Commissioner Felder. Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Whitman, Steelgrave, Vining, Germaini, Lamore, Felder,
Yes.
Mayor Clark.
Yes.
That concludes our business. I have some comments, but I'm going to reserve those for the council meeting.
Okay.
So, well, I have nothing else.
Any commissioner comments? Okay, I think we're all set.
Okay. And there are no citizen comments, so just need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion, Commissioner Lamore, support Commissioner Felder to adjourn. Clerk, call the roll.
Commissioner Whitman? Stilgrave?
Yes.
Vining?
Yes.
Jermaine?
Yes.
Lamore?
Yes.
Felder? Mayor Clark?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
So before we get into the meeting, it seems tedious, but these steps are necessary, and thanks to the clerk for bringing this forward here years ago. We've talked about how we might revisit it, but this works for me. It works to get through it. It's about 10 minutes time, unless there's things as asked. Maybe we didn't have some inspectors, then we'd have to do some other work. So that said, I'll give you a minute, see if we're ready for the work session.
I am ready.
You are ready. This time, I'll call the City Council work session meeting to order. It is 6:11. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilperson Whitman?
Yes.
Yes.
Jermaine? I'm sorry, Vining?
Yeah.
Jermaine? Lamore?
Present.
Felder? Mayor Clark?
Present, as we all are here this evening, so we're all here. That's good. So on the work session agenda, we have our first item. Mr. Pastu, I know that you've got do you need to add, do we need to add, or are we just going to bring those as time presents? Okay. So
Just do that, yeah.
all right, we'll start with, okay, that's the first one here.
Yeah, if I may, just in the introduction, a couple items on the back end of it I'd like to talk about. One is the Opportunity Center Navarre Library Project, regarding the funding that is in the state budget, awaiting governor's signature. And then I'm recommending for the regular meeting a temporary employment agreement with Peggy Howard. And then there's a few other items I would like to discuss on the regular meeting agenda tonight. But the first item is just, at the last meeting, Councilmember Vining inquired why we haven't established Juneteenth as a city holiday. And I kind of talked a little bit about some of the implications associated with it, with the collective bargaining agreements, especially 24/7 operations like fire and police. Because they have, in each contract has specific provisions related to holidays and in some cases holiday pay as well. So, and then I put in there, we got 13 holidays as it is, pretty significant number. But if we were going to proceed with this, I think that, we just need to give me some direction and I can start putting together some items for council to consider. Since it'll involve some collective bargaining agreement, we'll probably have a closed session or two to consider its implementation. If after your discussion, if you want to proceed with looking into it further, I just ask that you add it to the regular meeting agenda tonight, and then we can go from there.
Thoughts, comments, Councilman?
I didn't know this was a political thing until after we had the Juneteenth event on Juneteenth, and they posted it on, Monroe County Reporters, and the Republicans and the Democrats proceeded to argue for hundreds and hundreds of comments. So I didn't know it was had turned into a political back and forth issue. I guess, I don't know if the employees hadn't asked for it, and I know it's a council decision. So it will be a matter of if we think it's important to add. I would just say, I think that it may be a bad look if we didn't. And I don't know right now where I personally stand on it, because it is a collective bargaining issue. And do the employees want that day? I think it's an important day, and now that the current administration has made it a holiday, you already have the banks closed, the post office, and the federal place, and even the county closed that day. So those are just some things for consideration.
So I'll see if I'll just have comments. So on the county, I thought about that, and that came down through the court system. The courts were closed, but the county was not. but that's just part of it was because it came through the state of Michigan and the judiciary decided it would be the courts would be closed. So that was part of the county operation because it's a state operation that's within the county, and it caused some concern only because I think of the notification of time, not because of the topic. I don't think that's the controversy. You know, I was thinking about it since we read it on the agenda, and I'll see what other council members have comments as well. So I started thinking about, you know, collectively the collective bargaining, what it would take, and you make a good point. Is it something the employees? I mean, it's a day that would be a holiday, but then I started thinking how many 13?
13.
That we have 13 holidays for the year. And I started thinking about it. 8 of them are in 3-month time frame because you have November, December, January, which is crossovers. I think it's interesting that as we've gone through our probably most in the last 100 years or so, but I wasn't here. but the point is, you look at it and you watch changes of what was holidays and what's not a holiday, and how sometimes things change. And I think of some of the holidays that are currently celebrated across the country and come from national that are starting not to be, and then other things are transforming to what you know, the recognition and opportunity to elevate what the country as a whole may be looking for. So I just raised that, Councilman. I didn't expect it to be that result after it was a comment made, but I think as a council, you know, there are other things we'd have to talk about. It's not something that's necessary at this point for a I'll say an actionable item on an agenda. We have time to obviously take a lot of things into consideration, including collective bargaining, but also I think if we're going to do that, we really should reflect on all of our holidays that we have and what we do. So that's just my thought, my first thought. I don't have a position right now. Other comments? Ryan?
Thank you, Your Honor. As far as the employees go, I'd like to hear what they have to say about it, because I'm certain that there's some kind of factor that they have to have a certain amount of work every week. And if you add one more holiday, does that kind of cram that extra work into that week, so to speak? Trust me, I'm not opposed to having this holiday at all. I just want to make sure it's something that's obtainable and practical for the employees to do.
And I don't have an answer for you yet either, because that's why I put the question out there. If you want me to explore it, we can do that. And again, at the end of the day, you may decide, this is more than what we thought. And, you know, candidly, you still may have collective bargaining agreements that don't want it, which is potential as well. Well, we kind of like the ones we got now. So it's, if you took, you know, unless, of course, it's an add-on and you didn't subtract anything. So it's one of those things, you know, I could, you know, if you want to have the discussion, I can start putting together some pieces and little bits of information about what's contained in each of the collective bargaining agreements as it pertains to the, you know, our holidays and in some cases holiday pay for days worked. So
I'd be interested in knowing also from a state perspective what we're going to do because other communities do. We've not done that. We take our route. We did that with the naming committee. We looked at so many policies, and I don't think we ended up with any that we saw and found that what we found was the best and brought those together as a committee versus just throwing everything in there. But I you know, at the state or at the national level and the state level, it'll be interesting to see maybe is there currently positions here in the state, and then, you know, were there any hurdles that could be avoided that wouldn't be, I should say, complications. But I don't know. I'm still at the exploratory stage for myself, but I think I don't have enough information or understanding. I'd be curious how it might impact operations too. But it, you know, is it a trade? Is it looking at all of what we have for holidays? And I don't know. I'm just throwing ideas out. Andrew.
Yeah. Regarding the Facebook comments and the political aspect, I mean, this is a settled issue at the national and the state issue in the state level. So I think that's really a non-issue for me. But I think that there are legitimate administrative concerns that we need to look at. And included in those would be, you know, how much does an additional holiday cost the city, both in overtime and holiday pay to the employees who are going to have to work anyway, and then the employees who are not going to come in on that day. And then whether or not we would do that before or wait until the next collective bargaining agreement to put it in there, and I don't know if those conversations are more germane to have here or in the closed sessions where we will discuss those things.
Well, I think if you approach it, that you would have to, open up the dialogue, probably through a letter of understanding or even potentially an amendment to the collective bargaining agreement. But you could open it up for the discussion on that specific topic and nothing else.
Okay.
Other comments or thoughts? I think what we're getting is just conversation, Vince. There might be some additional things that might, information-wise, but at this point, Kelly?
Well, I don't know if I made it clear that I do think it's an honorable holiday and an honorable thing to do. But like Andrew said, we need to consider the administrative aspects of it. Also, it's always on the 19th, so the day is always going to change. So, yeah.
That's an interesting
It's-
point because
sorry.
as our holidays fall on the weekend now, the day moves forward to either the Monday or the Friday. Yeah, but
Part of the discussion, if I may, Your Honor, I get thinking about it. Well, let's just say, again, like 13 holidays is quite a bit. But if you took one away that was like on a Monday or something and put it in place of something that could potentially be midweek, well, that may not always be well received by certain employees as well, particularly administrative employees that sometimes, bank on that long weekend, even if it's in a winter month. So there's all kinds of little, considerations that go along with it. And again, that when do you, if you were to implement that holiday, how do you handle those that fall on midweek or on the weekend as well? So.
okay. Okay, Vince? I think it's, some information might be helpful. I'm not saying to the completeness, but I think, Andrew's point on the, I don't know what it is. I see Mr. Sell out there. He probably come up with a number. Just joking. He may come up with something, but what is that? And what does that entail? How many employees? And then you have employees that is, as we say, it may be a holiday, but we operate throughout every day of the year. And so what's that entail for overtime? But then what's it entail for those that aren't here that are paid? And I'm trying to think administratively I won't say complications, things for consideration. If it comes to holiday, of course, that wouldn't matter. We don't do that on every holiday. I'll disregard that. I guess some information, but I don't hear that it's something that we're looking to put on the agenda at this point. Is something we should come back in a
Well, I
work
was just,
session?
when I was asking about that, just tell me if you want me to look into it. That's all. I mean, there's no commitment at all. You may come back and just say, no, we're not, maybe not the right time, or there's too many issues that may still be unresolved. So,
Yeah, I'd like to see some information. Or Brian?
Yeah, I think it definitely deserves some attention, better attention than we gave it this year for certain. And if we decide that we're not going to make it a holiday, for instance, a day off or a closed day for the city, then at least make some kind of special acknowledgement to the holiday itself from the city. Something that would make it a little bit more outstanding than what it is right now.
sure.
Okay.
Very good.
Anything else right now? Okay, next item.
Next item, just wanted to discuss briefly an amendment to our cell phone policy, CELL, the phone. But essentially what the essence of it is, taking our existing policy and allowing an employee to get a stipend for using their own personal phone as it is now. The city provides a cell phone for a number of department heads and certain employees that need to respond in a case of emergency. It's structured so that, I think has some of the safeguards in there related to the Open Meetings Act. If in the event someone wanted to, look for some correspondence, it's in there. But by and large, it gives an employee the opportunity to using their own cell phone. And some of it times, certain employees may not use it all that much, where they will use their own personal phones. So what's the point of carrying two phones? In my case, I'll carry two because just the nature of what I do, and so I want to keep them separate. So, but it does give that discretion. It does have to be approved by the city manager if that's in fact the case. I didn't put a dollar amount in there, but I'm thinking $50 a month. Would cover certainly some of the cost associated with with the monthly charge and also again, be taxable as it was indicated in there. So it's something just for us to offer employees that would prefer to use their own rather than carrying two cell phones. So
I thought I saw it here, but I'll just ask, is there the employees that you're, would be included within this,
well, it's going to primarily be department heads
Yes.
For the most part, but you're going to have some personnel that are going to have to respond to emergencies, that type of thing. That Ed would know better than I do how many employees outside of department heads have cell phones. There's a handful of them. Yeah, yeah. If you're a plant personnel or in a DPS supervisor in that kind of capacity, you're on call on weekends on certain times. So it is something that's out there.
Do you see this to be, all the phones have to be purchased and all the plans, something to be less cost? Same? I'm just kind of, we come up with what might be the number for the compensation for the, use of the phone for city purpose, but I'm not saying that's it is a financial
It's not really
decision
a
for
cost
less.
issue, I don't think. We do have Ed Sell, Assistant City Manager, Finance Director, sorry about that. We do have some requests more frequently, it seems lately, from employees that already have, especially new employees that already have their personal cell phones, and they come here and we want them to have a cell phone, but they don't want to be carrying around two phones. I think that's probably more the reason for doing this than cost savings. For comparison purposes, for like department heads, we have two different cell phone plans, but for a department head that has a smartphone with a data plan on it, it's anywhere from it ranges from $45 to $50 a month. So the cost under the stipend is about the same as that. So it's not really cost savings. It's just, I think it gives employees that would rather just use their personal cell phone the ability to do that.
Communication calls, but also would it include email? Would it be able to access their, I'm thinking about security, and I know that's all well in place, just thinking about it, that's all.
I think the policy does require them to have access to the email, right?
Yes, because actually, I think, when I was looking at it again just this afternoon about the authentication requirements associated, that's a recent thing that we're going to for, our internal, email system. And so my sense of it is, yeah, you got to, have that capability to use it as well. So.
Drafted it so that they would have to communicate with anybody from the city the same way they would if it was a city provided phone, whether it be by text, email, or just mobile phone. I like the word mobile better than cell. It doesn't get mixed up as much.
Yeah. Well, it makes sense. It really comes down to not having to carry two phones, it appears to be, because if they're already required to have the phone for communication and email for their job, then it's just putting it in one place. Huh?
Right.
Oh, Andrew.
Yes, so it sounds like the request is coming from the employees, so it is of some benefit to them. We are requiring them to have some functionality, which we, if they didn't have this, would pay for anyway, and those plans range from $35 to $50 a month. I don't mean to be a humbug, but it seems that our utilization of their phone is only partial, as it is also a personal phone. And so whatever that amount is, it should be less than the amount that we would pay if we were to just get them a phone on a separate plan.
The other piece of it though is that you got to buy the phone. You know, 45 to $50 a month is the service, but phones are expensive, and that adds to the monthly cost as well. You know, I mean, I would think anywhere from 20 to $50, depending on what type of phone you're purchasing. So I think that falls into it as well.
Is there, cell phones are cell phones, I say, but then we know there's different models, there's different types, and there's different capacity.
I'm with you, Mr. Mayor. This is $14 a month.
Yeah.
I don't know what anyone else is using, but this is $14 a month.
Capacity, can they make, are they gonna be able to make, what we're sending? And, how do we adjust that if the phone they have doesn't meet the capabilities or capacity of what we're sending? And then what happens?
That's
ahead.
the condition of it, is that you have to be able to, accept and transmit whatever you would be able to on a city-owned cell phone.
Okay.
So, I mean, that's their obligation if they're going to exercise that option under a policy that, may be approved or may not be approved by the council. And so, but, part of it is there's we anticipate most employees will still keep the city mobile phone, and for good reason. There's some of us that do use it regularly for business-related text messages, business-related emails, business-related calls. But you have some other employees that don't need it as frequently, and where most of their use may very well be just an emergency call, or that if something happens after hours. And so, if we do it, that's fine. If not, this is not one to go to the mats over. It's so whatever the council's pleasure is, I would be fine either way.
I was just asking questions. I'm trying to figure how that would, different service providers. I'm probably asking questions that don't even apply, but it just makes me think about it and thinking, well, if it didn't work, and then what do I have to do if it's my phone? Do I have to change things? Probably not. I don't know. I'm not up the speed on all cell phones.
We don't do anything as terms of software applications
Yeah.
with our cell phones here at
Yeah.
the city. So you're basically talking
That's it.
text and,
Okay.
and email and of course phone calls, and any modern day smartphone's going to be able to do all that without a problem. So
I guess I appreciate that employees are thinking of it and asking, because they're trying to think convenience, but also willingness to do it. So, I'm not saying I'm opposed or anything. Brian, you had something, then I'll go back to
Yeah,
Andrew.
who's our current provider? Is it, we just have one, or do we have multiple?
we have two different plans with AT&T.
Two different plans with AT&T. Okay, because I know that sometimes one company versus the other, one will go down, one will stay up, that type of thing. Have we ever thought about having two different providers for service? Based on maybe, because I mean, you're saying you have multiple lines, which I'm assuming you would, police department, fire department, all these people need to have cell phones for their job, other than their own personal cell phones, which I definitely agree with that, because obviously they want to keep their anonymity away from work. So I definitely don't have a problem with those people having a phone that the city provides them, which I think it should be that way. However, these other people that get calls infrequently, I don't have a problem giving them a stipend, but not like Andrew said, I'm kind of Scrooge-ish when it comes to pushing more money towards them to utilize their own phone when they're only getting a few calls to begin with.
Yeah. We used to be with Sprint when Sprint was a thing, I guess. It's
T-Mobile now.
been quite a while, but at the time, we're with the county for information technology services, and they did a pretty thorough study of providers, and AT&T had the best service by far at that time, and they were installing new towers. So that's why we're with AT&T. We kind of just follow the county along on that one. And
Do they give you any discounts?
oh yeah. I don't recall if they still are, but at the time they did have the state bid, but we get a 25% discount on our plans. Yeah. And we just have a generic plan for employees that might not have a first response capability, but employees that may be required to respond in case of an emergency, say if the emergency management division ever declared an emergency in the area. We have a different plan for them through AT&T called FirstNet, and that one is, the benefit of that one is if there ever were an emergency, the people that have service under that plan is they are guaranteed to get access to the wireless network. They will get priority over the regular cell phones that are on AT&T's network. So that's what's in place at this point. But yeah, that plan is, the price is very good on the FirstNet plan. It's actually a little better than the regular plan, but we do get a 25% discount on our regular AT&T plan as well.
So I have a question. Is this something that's employee optional, or is it all or none?
Oh, I envisioned it as an option for the employee, but
Okay.
I'll be honest with you. If there's A to Z issues with the cost and the stipend, it's not worth much of an argument. I'll be honest with you. It was just something we put out there. Had some employees inquire about it, and in some ways it may create another administrative layer. Not much, but still, if there's an issue or reticence on the part of council, I'm not gonna belabor the issue, and it's just not worth it.
It's just the more we talk about it, I just have more questions. It's not.
Yeah,
I'm
and that's
not- I'm not
sometimes,
saying I'm making the questions because I'm opposed. It'd be interesting to know how many employees would want to take interest.
I
in
don't
this.
think there's a whole lot,
Right. So
but there will
there's-
be a few that would, and
Yeah,
so it's.
yeah,
But
so-
it may just given the marginal
Minimal.
number not worth it.
Okay. Other thoughts, Andrew? You had one.
Ask if, maybe it's a moot point now, but I was going to ask if the participating employees would be required to have their personal number listed on the city's website in the directory, as many of ours is.
Yeah, no, I haven't. Much
know if
thought, to
they
be honest
are.
with you.
I don't think we post mobile numbers on the website though.
I specifically requested mine to be posted on the website.
Like my mobile number is not on the website, as are, I don't believe, any other city employees. There are, our regular
Office.
office numbers are on there, but not our mobile numbers.
Obviously, none of us have offices. So.
Yeah, I mean, if an employee requested it, it could be, but I don't, as a policy, I don't believe we do that.
Would we have one number just forward to their cell? Is that how that would?
No. I mean, they can set up their phones, their desk phones, so that can happen if they want to.
Mhm.
If my phone was ringing at my desk right now and I wanted it to be ringing right here as well, I could set it up to do that. And I don't do it. It's set up to do that. I don't do that a lot, but that is an option. But yeah. I think one thing to remember is that, it's going to be Vince that's going to have to approve, or the city manager who's going to have to approve these, and it has to be for a business reason. You can't just give somebody a stipend because you want to give them extra money. The IRS would frown upon that. I do think there's a possibility that these would be non-taxable, but that's one of the key issues is that there has to be a very strong business reason for giving that person a stipend. I mean, you have to be able to say, hey, this person needs to be able to accept city calls on their personal mobile phone for whatever reason. And so that's going to have to be in place for them to be granted a stipend.
I'm going to call it the cell phone policy, SELL.
I'm sure you had any direction of where to go on that. It's like, okay, it's good conversation though. All right, then we'll move along. Your next item.
We're a bunch of old fogies. I don't know.
So let me present to you a paid time off policy, and this is in lieu of vacation leave, personal time leave, and sick leave. And it's really pretty common more and more in the private sector, and certainly becoming a lot more prevalent in for executive level, department level positions in government. And essentially what it does is it just combines these into just one period where you can take off, as it is now, we have as high as 29 days vacation leave based on our schedule that you could have. along with 12 sick days, along with 5 personal days. Well, that gets you up to 46 days. And to be honest with you, with the professional staff you have, you really don't have a sick leave problem. A lot of it is just keeps accruing. There's no payoff with that sick leave, but it does allow for some flexibility for the paid time off. And so if you've got to manage it, but for goodness sakes, they're department heads. They should be sensible enough to take the leave time when they know the right time is. If they're sick, keeps them in the bank, and you can use it for that purpose. And so, but what I would do is set a schedule. I would ask if we're inclined to implement it, that you have 30 days for those. I think with less than 20 years of service, there's only 2 that would have more than that, and we'd set that at 33, trying to balance out where the number of vacation days they have and bring it in proportion. But essentially, if we were to implement this, it would be 30 days for the existing employees, 33 for those with, I believe, more than 20 years of service. We would freeze their accrued sick leave that they've banked over the years and basically allow for it to be used in the event of an extended illness, if there's a family medical leave that they would be eligible for, a family member that would be available for that. And again, with the employees we're talking about, there's no sick leave abuse there. It's there if they have a condition, they aren't going to get paid off for that sick leave. And so, what it does, we picked January 1st as a date of implementation because that corresponds with when the posting takes place for personal leave days, as well as with the sick leave, employees are eligible for a bonus for not using it, of which, again, most employees get the bonus for not using that sick leave. And so there's a provision each year where they could turn in up to 6 days, which is the maximum amount of paid time off that they could turn in. So, our desire is to start putting a more professionalized approach to the benefit structure that we have for our department head, non-union personnel, similar to what you'd find in the private sector and also with the, municipal end for executive level and department head positions. So I can go into more detail if you want with some of the provisions, but certainly open to your thoughts and comments and from there.
Any comments, thoughts for city manager? Oh, quiet. Andrew, you're thinking.
I do. I'm trying to.
I'll move along. Okay, Brian, if you want to start.
Yeah, this is different from FMLA, correct? In the sense that but it could coordinate with it.
Yes, but it is a different structure of leave time where it's just rather than segregating it between vacation and sick and personal time, you just get a leave amount, each year of January 1st.
Whereas FMLA is not necessarily paid. Am I correct?
It can or can't be. I mean, if you've got some time available where and that's part of the sick leave balance that we would leave. Again, these employees, if you changed nothing and they had an FMLA leave, they would be able to draw from that bank. So
That's where it coordinates.
What's that?
That's where it coordinates.
Yeah. But if you don't have a bank, you could still use your paid time off in whatever bank that you had at the time to use that as well.
I'll just say, heard and seen where other, private, public are consolidating this just to X amount of days. And you're trying to make sure they're using them for all the reasons that are already there, but it's just not documented that way. You have X amount of days for the year and how you use them. I don't know. I've seen them, and it's working elsewhere. I can say that. I think we're talking about our department staff and employees that already have flexibility in what they're doing. We have an item on the agenda later this evening. It's about a contract, and you read through it and it talks about that necessity for flexibility by the nature of the schedule. And I think it's, we allow that. I think we can, on this side, it's just the employee managing, knowing the time and making sure it falls within the allowable reasons, as opposed to 3 different reasons and which one's going to fit. I don't know. I've seen it. It works. I don't have any qualms, but I can think of. And again, if it's something that the council moves forward with and implements, if it find out that, well, it's not working like we intended it to, there's always something later. But I don't see the staff that we're talking about that would be benefit from this, or actually implement with. I don't see that to be an issue, but I'm fine.
So my intent would be to bring this back to council at the next meeting to consider its adoption, so.
So I'll go to where we did at the last conversation. I'm assuming the employees are looking at this to be some.
No, this is more of coming from me. I just think it's a professional direction that you need to start from a recruitment standpoint, because more and more you're seeing this is an expectation of employees coming, especially at this level. This is kind of what they're used to elsewhere. So
That makes sense. Andrew?
Yes, I do think, I agree with Vince in his saying that the private sector certainly is going increasingly this direction. The places that I've worked that have offered this model, I've certainly been fond of it in lieu of something that's more segregated. In my experience, though, there's always been a cap or an explanation of how the hours can build up. You can't just say, oh, I'm going to save up 100 days up until retirement and then just take the last third of the year off or something like that.
it's an excellent point, and I should have brought that out. Consistent with our vacation leave policy, we'll use, for example, if someone is eligible for 20 days of vacation each year, they can multiply that by 2, and that's the maximum accrual that you can have with that. So it's 25 days vacation, 50 days is the maximum accrual, and this is consistent with that.
So you can accrue 2 years worth.
2 years worth of it,
Gotcha.
and that's where it, where the maximum amount. So you don't get that massive accrued liability benefit out there on the back end of someone leaving the organization. So
Okay. And does this also have collective bargaining implications?
it does
attached
not.
to it?
This is non-union personnel only.
Non-union personnel only?
Yeah.
Okay.
I do, if I may, given the nature of a 24/7 operation, I'm not inherently crazy about this kind of PTO policy. It can create some staffing and scheduling issues with that. And then on a limited basis, I may be a little more understanding for administrative positions that are functioning more on a 9 to 5 type of environment. But it's very limited where I think its application works best, and certainly in this case for the department heads and confidential employees.
Okay. You said the total accrual after is going to be between 30 and 33 days a year of total PTO. The total accrual before is dependent on, it's between 12, 5 personal, so like 27 to plus 17, 34, 44. Thank you. People who can do math.
Yeah, you can, no, I'll be honest with you, in the total days that you can use to take off, you're getting a haircut. I mean,
Yeah.
but the condition is, one, you don't have employees that
But those
abuse their
days are
sick
less
leave.
conditioned. Too,
Yes,
Because
exactly.
the sick days are unconditional. So it's less overall, but their effective use is going to increase.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Thoughts, questions? We'll see it soon.
Okay, I'll bring it back next week. Next meeting, I should say.
So you had a couple more items on the Opportunity Center of our library, and then the unemployment agreement.
Yeah, we doing time-wise? Oh, we're doing good. Obviously, everybody's aware that the budget passing the Michigan House and the Michigan Senate included the $7.8 million for the Opportunity Center Navarre Library project, still requiring the governor's signature. And part of it is while there's a great deal of enthusiasm and interest in getting rolling, there's a few questions and a few things that we have to consider. One is the budget doesn't take effect till October 1st. So there is kind of that issue with it. The other part of it is we don't know what state agency is going to be assigned for the oversight of this. Historically, my experience has been the state will put together an agreement and a reporting requirement that goes along with it, but also that you're not to incur any eligible expenses. If you incur anything, it's on your time before the effective date of the agreement. And so those are a couple of things to take into account. But as a practical matter, Patrick and I also talked about we're not sure what, if any, type of procurement requirements would go along with this grant. We know the federal programs are a lot more stringent, but this may be part of an ARPA pass-through, and it may come conditioned upon similar type of requirements. At least we suspect it's, the federal pass-through. If it is, then there's that expectation. We internally, staff-wise, would like to work, all things being equal, with Kohler Architects. After all, they were the ones that worked with the steering committee to develop the site master plan and the building master plan. And then we've had a very, very positive relationship with AUK Construction as a construction manager at risk. But it may be a little premature to enter into those type of contracts till we find out a little bit more about what the procurement requirements are and when the effective date would be. But we can talk a little bit about start thinking about what kind of steering committee would be involved with it. It may be many of the same individuals that were working with the city to do work with Kohler on the master plan. And then lastly, I just think that until the governor signs it and we get a little more information, it may be time to kind of sit and let's just see where things are going to go with it. I mean, there's a desire on my part to get this thing rolling, but you still got to negotiate contracts. Even if we had the option to negotiate with Kohler and AUK, I mean, you're still talking another month down the road. And Patrick and I were talking about the next phase of the project, assuming everything gets approved, is going to be the schematic design phase. And again, is it possible to do some sort of hybrid or something like that? Probably not. There's just a process that you have to follow, kind of a due diligence, if you will, for any kind of architectural project. And so, again, I think we're all excited about the prospect, but there's probably more information that we need to know. And the other part of it is this had a $7.8 million estimate a year ago, and certainly we've been looking at a police operations facility, and those costs have jumped dramatically per square foot in the last year as well. So there's a lot of things that we still have out there, and hopefully, information that we receive from the state once the governor signs it will come quick. That will allow us to do some planning, but until that point in time, I think that's where we're at. And as Patrick and I talked about this morning, there's part of it too is, a transition plan. As I said, I'm leaving in April, and take that into account when, that design work will still be taking place. And, harder and harder to figure out how you can get this thing possibly started in 2023, it maybe even a 2024 start construction-wise. So part of it is we're excited, but we got to manage some expectations and find out all the details that we'll need to go along with this appropriation at the state level once the governor signs it.
Thanks, Vince. I know there's been many comments and some things came out and others are just curious. So I think that gives a good review of the timeline. And in fact, it's not something that's coming next week. It's not even signed by the governor's office yet, or governor, I should say. But yet there's things that we can start considering how to get there. I'll just see if I have some other stuff, but I'll see if there's comments from council first. Joe?
Are there some of the same implications for the 5 million proposed for the port?
They're probably going to have the same conditions that we're still waiting to know and understand what they may be. So yes, I would expect that if it is coming from the same funding source.
So I can think of a couple examples here, time here with the city, and the first was the DNR Trust Fund. And that was great. And then, of course, the details came through and it just was not coming, and they wouldn't release the funds. And then found out that, well, it was through certain internal structures with the state that had to be done to begin with. And we kept moving forward, and yet we weren't spending revenue that was available that we thought was. And then it wasn't the case, because once the department that got assigned that, then there were departmental regulations of how they manage funds versus a different fund. So that's just how that came to be. I'm not complaining about it. I'm just saying there's facts that you don't understand and realize it until you start wanting to move forward. And then we had meetings upon meetings, went to Lansing, and what we thought would be in one fashion was not the way it got done. We got there, of course, because it was very successful. The other was port revenue that came to the port years ago, and it was I would take it back. It wasn't the port; it was the battlefield, and there was money to be spent, and then realized that they weren't going to release it. They weren't going to release it for whatever reasons internally and how it was coming along. So there was those things I anticipate will be again as well. I think Mr. Pastu said, the manager said that, we don't know what department's going to manage this, and I think we'll find from there where we go next. And I think that there's nothing wrong with that. It just, you can't really, get involved with the game until you know what the rules are and how they're going to be, how it's going to be managed and kind of refereed. So I think that's kind of where we are. We should be excited. I think it's great. It's good news. But I know over the weekend, Councilman Vining, I had some conversation about it, because there was messaging that went out. Well, it wasn't our messaging. It was messaging from those that had the first part of it. I think that opportunity will come for the city and our partners with this to make sure that people understand. And as Vince has stated, it's just, it's the Opportunity Center, but it's not the Opportunity Center. It's the city, and it's the functions are in and around the Opportunity Center. Of course, it's the Opportunity Center, the library, the boxing program that we impacted, the learning bank, and then our community. All those 5 will revolve around at least what we had planned, but that's what we have planned to spend for and implement. But we're going to find out once it kind of gets signed off, then we'll start having those contacts. So I look forward to that information as that comes through, and we can move forward as quickly and as appropriately as possible. Other thoughts or questions?
Now, may I add on to that a little bit further? Yeah. Part of it is, with my conversation with Patrick, is clearly he's running into a capacity issue. And candidly, I don't know, we're up to 9 major projects now. Yeah, if you do that one too. Yeah, I forgot about that. At any rate, there is a lot of projects out there. And, major projects, I mean, St. Mary's Garden, Carnes Park, finishing up Lazy Boy, the work associated with the design work here. You got a refuse contract to consider, airport. What else we got? I don't know. I keep forgetting.
He pulls his list out.
He pulls the list.
It's like my governing document here. Police station, MLK Bridge, St. Mary's Garden.
Yeah.
Carnes Lazy Boy Project Management, Airport, Opportunity Center, Railroad.
So, having said that, one of the things we talked about is potentially looking at reshuffling some of the years in which some of the road projects are prioritized. Patrick will tell you the concrete work is a little easier from a design standpoint, but also a timing from an inspection standpoint. And so where I'm going with this is probably late August, maybe early September. We're going to have a special meeting just to get council's input on how we might reshuffle this to manage it within the resources Patrick has even talking a little about potentially about, staffing for the next couple of years. Barry's right behind him. He's got almost a $20 million water main replacement that's going to be taking place outside the city. We talked a little bit about it during the budget process. So you can see that there's a number of major projects already in the queue and bigger ones coming, down the road. So I think as we start working on our capital improvements in September, the CIP, that we got to get the council's input on how we might reshuffle some of the projects, moving them around so it fits within the capacity that the engineering department may have to deliver. So it's good. It's all good.
Questions for Vince on this? I know we'll hear more as things progress from the state level, and hopefully it'll be clear and quick, and we can start making those,
Yep.
having those discussions in the steering committee and moving forward. All right, Vince.
Next item is I sent an email out requesting council to add an item to the regular meeting tonight, which would authorize the manager to enter into a temporary employment agreement with Peggy Howard, our HR director, just to transition a number of major items that she's currently working on, of which one was finishing up the firefighters contract. We've kind of got a verbal tentative agreement, but we still have to put it into a form for us to formally be able to tentatively agree and sign off on that, and then give the bargaining unit an opportunity to ratify before coming to city council. There's a little work involved with that, but also, she's our pension board approved a duty disability for Officer Renee Peterson, and related to that is a workers' comp kind of settlement that goes along hand in hand with that. And to be honest with you, I've done a lot of HR things, but never had to do a duty disability and workers' comp settlement. Peggy has, and so I had asked her to work on it. And certainly given the significance and what Officer Peterson has went through with her duty disability, I think the smoother we can make that, the better. We also have the one case, the Nathan Carr case, of which she's critical in the defense of that case. And then finally, there's just a lot of things internally that when Julie Everly comes on board, just to help with that transition of where things are at, who we deal with as far as benefits and those type of things. And so it's just general counseling to help with the smooth transition with that. And so, my request would be just to authorize me to enter into a temporary employment agreement, $2,000 per month for a not to exceed 6-month period. I clearly think the first 3 months in particular will be pretty, that's about 40 hours a month. I can easily see that taking place the first few months, but thereafter, as I've had my conversation with Peggy, we can, put an end to it at any point. So I'm just grateful that she's willing to help and assist. I mean, even talked with her some length this morning. So
Questions for manager on this one?
good.
Any questions? I guess I'll comment. I think when his Peggy's departure arrived here, the question in this night channel is, okay, we have a couple items, and as we talked through, there was other ones, and Ms. Howard was very involved with those, and then I also thought about, as was stated, with our new human resources director, who's having to finalize things before that departure, which is why we're kind of in this space. And I think it would be beneficial to make that transition. So I don't have a problem with this. I think it's, the manager's willingness to monitor it and report back to the council on it. Sorry, and report back to the council on, I guess, progress as we're going. So I'll just leave it at that, since the first party was probably not heard. Brian?
Yeah, Your Honor, I just wanted to know, are we going to add this under council action?
Yes.
Okay, and then if so, is there an item number you'd like to assign it?
I don't have an item number, but what I have is a fact sheet. I would let the clerk handle that, but essentially, I'll just read the motion sheet and I'll hand it out to you. It just says, the title would be Authorization for City Manager, enter into a temporary employment agreement with Peggy Howard. The requested motion, move to authorize City Manager enter into a temporary employment agreement with Peggy Howard to assist in the transition process in the Human Resource Department in the amount of $2,000 per month for a not-to-exceed time period of 6 months. That would be the requested action.
Clerk, I'll go to you next then.
So under amend agenda, we'll just make a motion to add the item, and then the motion part of it can be brought up when I call the item under council action, and then I'll just add the number when we do the minutes, rather than assign one randomly right now. We'll keep it in order.
So basically, I'm just going to be repeating the motion, one to put it in the agenda, and then the other one to actually make the motion.
You just go ahead and just make a motion to add it to the agenda under amend agenda, and then when we get to council action, the further motion would then be utilized at that point.
Sounds good.
Any thoughts or comments, any concerns?
One item, right?
It's my understanding, right?
Yeah.
Mr. Bastu?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, so I think as we continue here and before the regular meeting, council can receive that time just to review it and then be prepared for that amendment if so acceptable, and then under council action.
Can I review a few items on the regular meeting agenda?
Sure. Is there anything on the agenda that the council members want to ask the manager of beforehand?
Well, let me, if I may, just go through a couple
sure.
of them real quick for you. The one with the playground equipment replacement, I put a contingency on that. Part of that is what Loretta had talked about probably a couple of months ago when she came to the one work session. It is, utilizing our policy related to prevailing wages for employees, when they're working for the contractor. And the Medicare healthcare plan document, I think council had received a memo regarding a retiree. This would take care of the problem that, arose after his retirement, not realizing that he was forfeiting his contribution. So, and I was thinking initially this was going to be an ordinance, but it's an amendment to our retiree healthcare plan. I'm not sure if there's anything regarding the code enforcement action for tonight. The budget amendment related to ARPA, we talked a little bit about, again, essentially committing to paying public safety wages out of the ARPA funds, which are perfectly appropriate, and then taking what we had budgeted and essentially moving it to out of the operating budget. We didn't put it into capital projects, did we? Should we just leave it in the general fund for now? The money for the ARPA public budget amendment.
We would have to move it around, yeah.
Yeah, when projects are ready to go, though. Yeah, okay, all right. We'll maintain the full flexibility that we have until needed. Patrick alluded to the rail grade separation study. I'll come back to that in a second. You see the MLK Bridge rehab project is on there. Certainly, I think we're more comfortable moving forward with that. And then Mr. Cochran's employment agreement. Any questions about the rail separation study?
Yeah, it is. Any questions or comments on the rail grade separation feasibility? I'm looking at, well, I'll just ask, because I know that it's been years, and I'm not saying because we've done it before that it's applicable today, and it probably is not. And it wasn't, I don't think it was a complete feasibility study as much as, do we wander in down this path or not? So I think if we're gonna, if from what I understand, with the amount of revenue that we know is everywhere, but from the federal government specifically, that would be beneficial for this. If not now, when? And we won't know unless we make a determination what the feasibility would be and where it would be best from the locations that you had mentioned in their report.
And I think Patrick and I had, in talking with Manick and Smith, is the focus, it will take a cursory look at Seventh, but the real primary focus is going to be on West Elm and West Front, where I think the biggest traffic volume is. But what it is a condition to doing these studies to position ourselves for some of the federal funds. And actually, we had a phone conversation with Senator Zorn, who is very supportive of this at the state level, to put some funding in toward it that could potentially supplement, some federal funding that goes along with it. So, but we need to document the need and the alternatives considered before considering an application when those funds become available.
Well, there's definitely needs within the city in a variety of locations, from one end to the other, that would be benefit to not only the community, but ability to maneuver without the train crossing delays.
Okay.
Any comments on any items or other items? Sure.
Can you hear me okay? That's
Yes.
better. Loretta had sent me a note about also putting an additional amount for some playground equipment. I think it's like $8,700. I'm not going to ask you to change anything on the agenda for that. We'll find a source to come up, but that would have been at Soldiers and Sailors Park. She wanted to come up with some additional funding for that, of which I think we'll find either within our general operation budget or some other grant funding. So
Okay.
that's it for me.
Okay. If there's nothing from the agenda, other comments that council members have, whether it's items for this evening or items for the future. I know Mr. Pastu has a list. We've discussed them, and there's a lot that's being covered, but I don't know if there's any other items that we've chatted about that I want to highlight to maybe see where it's at or where we might see it sometime. I don't have one on my top of my head on that, but I want to give everybody the opportunity. And if not now, obviously send that on to Mr. Pastu. So, looking through the summer, I know as you've pointed out, there's many projects and much going on, and I know there's probably at some point this summer or time where we may be looking at a potential for a special work session or meeting potentially. I think some of the items that we've talked about in the past, and many are moving forward. Any thoughts on that? It might be something come back later in the month or next month about what might be there, and see if it's council's interest, but also availability to meet.
I think, we got 5 Mondays in August. That may be one where you try and put one in there, but it is the end of summer. I also know that's sometimes impractical. And then probably the next one would be after the Monday after our first meeting in September. Between our first and third meeting is if we did something there. Because we're, getting to a point now where, we got to start thinking about the CIP process, and that would kind of fit conveniently for us to start putting together the projects and the financing associated with it as well.
I think about that as well because, item that's on our agenda you referred to in are the ARPA funds and how we're going to make them more flexible, and which was allowed by the first 10 million can be spent as stated, more flexibility there. The revenues that maybe not been spent in a fashion we then can utilize, and probably want to have those conversations with council on the CIP because it's going to go to projects or the needs within the community as well. So might be earlier than we usually have that meeting, but better now than before we make other commitments.
Well, and we also know a lot more.
Right.
Opportunity Center and of our library project funding has been kind of just holding, let's see what we get. And that could drive a lot, it was going to drive a lot of the decisions going forward, so, and it has.
Thanks. I'm not about making extra meetings just to have meetings. That's not the point. But if there's all those things come together and we have to make some, have some discussion, those opportunities when it might present, just didn't want to go by, that's all. Clerk Lavoy, I know you had your comments for the meeting, you said it, right?
Yes.
I'm good with that. So if there's nothing further, we have a couple extra minutes, and at this time, we'll just adjourn the work session, and 7:30 will be our regular meeting. Thank you.